I can tell you that there's sufficient data to say that bees are crucial for blueberry pollination. They affect size, quality of berries, they affect lifespan.
From Taki. So Hannelie, welcome, and let us know your background and what are you doing at the moment?
Hello, Warwick, and to everybody looking or listening. Yeah, it's an honor. I think if we go back, let me first say that I studied at Tax. I did my master's and then my PhD with Sue Nicholson, and we got involved in honeybees. And as a matter of fact, yeah, it was a very interesting journey looking at aloes and the floral rewards of aloes, and of course the effect of that on honeybees. And one thing led to another. At the moment, I am an extraordinary lecturer at the University of Pretoria, but doing mostly pollination consultation work for a very nice blueberry company, United Exports. And I also do a lot of focused research for SAMAC, the macadamia industry.
Right.
Um, yeah, and 20 years ago, I met Warwick because we always supported his shop. Students had
Yeah,
to drive up and down to Centurion.
that's right. I remember when I was delivering to you guys as well on the odd occasion, urgent stuff on a Friday afternoon, and trying to get in parking in the first place. Security was another thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
crazy, eh?
Won-
But
Wonderful
yeah,
days.
yeah, man, we've come a long way, both of us. Yeah, so tell me then about pollination. So with the blueberries, because that's my next one. So I'm doing avocados went out this week. Next one's going to be blueberries. So I want to talk a bit more about that before you move on. I know you've mentioned pesticides can be a problem, the shade netting can be a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
What else? What else should we look out for on blueberries?
Um, okay, I think one needs to think about the fact that there are so many varieties out.
Okay.
We can actually produce blueberries over a wide ecological range. I mean, we have blueberries in the Western Cape. We have blueberries up north, up to Limpopo. Different types of bees, subspecies of bees. Bees behave differently. Um, Capensis bees definitely has a different flight pattern compared to bees up north. Uh,
Okay.
Getting back to blueberries and bees in the northern part of the country, one of the things that we suffer most is the flowering period falls in within the coldest part of the year, in winter time. Bees do not start to forage unless it's at least 14 degrees Celsius out there. So very often you would think it's not that cold. It is flippin' cold up north. And the bees would start to work after 11 sometimes.
Wow.
And then if you think when it's sunset, 3, the light begin to change.
Hmm.
4, they stop working. So it's a very short window
Yeah.
that bees actually can fly and do the pollination. One thing that's also very important, um, don't take in a colony that's not strong enough. It's going to, the pollen quality of blueberries are not optimal. It's about 16% protein. So
Okay.
it's not, we are making the bees work. We are making the bees work. There is, yeah, there are floral rewards, but pollen is suboptimal.
Wow.
So for that, the bees need to have a proper food storage. There should be honey, there should be proteins. Considering feeding bees during a pollination period, I think needs to be reconsidered. I know it's an extra expense, but I can tell you the difference between two beekeepers, one who fed these bees on a weekly basis, that the bees can actually, when he stopped and he's got out of his truck and he put his feet into his containers, the bees We were not back at the bokkie yet. Then the bees were there. They smelled it. Man, that was cute. They literally go. And it was an indicator for him that the hive is all right. He didn't have to open the hive to see they were all right because they were coming for the food.
Right.
So feeding, nutrition, it brings us back to that. I think that's more crucial than we even thought. Navigation, that is a problem. Quality, strength of hives. And then the rotation basis. Don't think you can bring in your hives and leave them for a month. No, it's not going to work. You need to have a shorter rotation period. And then another thing that I think is important with regards to that is, wait, it will get back to me now. It was something important. Obviously not so important if it slips my mind. Yeah, driving vast distances, check your hives, check your hives. Make sure there are not small hive beetles because the stress of the pollination, of blueberry pollination, I've seen an increase in small hive beetle numbers in one area this year. And I think it's because the hives were not up to standard. The bees seem not to be able to handle small hive beetles. Regular inspections, visit your bees. I think that's the most important things that I can mention right off the bat now. Yeah.
Oh, those are fantastic points. Really, really good. Just wanted to just to if you can give me some a little bit of indication then on the blueberries. We've spoken about macadamians being 2 millimeters more, the roundness of them being 2 millimeters wide, and there's more of them in the yield than that. What would you say happens with the blueberries then? What's your finding around that with the increase in the yield there and the difference with bees, no bees?
Okay, so yeah, without talking out of my NDA, I can tell you that there's sufficient data to say that bees are crucial for blueberry pollination. They affect size, quality of berries, they affect lifespan. And when I talk about lifespan, it means if you think about berries being harvested, it's going down to the harbor and then it's in a container and it's being shipped to the UK or wherever the market is. That's a lengthy time on sea. And blueberries, if it was pollinated properly, it can last that amount of time.
Wow.
So that's a very, very crucial. Yeah. In blueberry production, I mean, the costs of flying out containers are tremendous. So you have to look at sea freight, and that is one of the crucial aspects, is can your berry survive that time period and
Right.
still be of the proper quality that the consumer wants to buy?
Okay.
And if you think that I'm having a job for 4 years with the export company, it tells you that pollination is working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know. I mean, I understand you got to protect your some of your research there, but if I may ask you a couple more questions and just say if you can answer or not. But overall, like, so what are these guys willing to pay? Because I know like Savio's got some standard pricing that they talk about, but what is you know, what would you say is like a fair rate for a beekeeper, let's say? And
um, I'm
or
going to be very careful there. I'm not going to talk money. Remember, I have a lot of farms, I have a lot of beekeepers, and there are agreements, and it
yeah,
can be considered price fixing if I say anything along those lines. But for every beekeeper, he needs to go and consider the amount of time that he spends on the road to take the bees from A to B. I have beekeepers traveling 700 kilometers. So that's an input cost.
Yeah.
Taking care of the bees, preparing them to a pollination standard is an input cost. It's more than just hanging a hive out there, putting it up on your truck and taking it into pollination. We require more than that, actually.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, feeding while in winter. There's a drought period. You have to provide food. That's another input cost. And if you sort of then time it, taking all of those additional factors into consideration, you can get to a sustainable price that actually has both parties happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not going to give you a figure.
That's fine. I totally understand it, and I appreciate that. I do respect you for holding up that side of your non-disclosure, which is fine, and also the price fixing side. So obviously, people can get. I'm just going to say to the audience that people can get. You can get recommended prices or advisory prices from places like Sabio, Adrian Detoy, who was the chairman, I think 2020, 2021, around there, published some pricing, which we've got on our newsletters and our website. So I'll post that in the description below as well. You guys can see what their recommended pricing is. At least it's not what I'm saying, it's not what you're saying, but that's what Savia was saying at the time in 2020.
Yeah.
Obviously, costs since then probably I know they have gone up.
Yeah.
Both sides, farmer, grower, and beekeeper. But and then I think Western Cape has also got a pollinators association or something like that, where they also publicize some rates as well. It's not necessarily crop specific, but one can get some ideas. And then, like you say, it's down to there are variables like travel, how many hives you've got, how many hectares you've got to cover. Do you have to remove the bees for the spraying, or you're going to spray them at night, like you've suggested, which I think is a really good idea. And then, but yeah, it's interesting. And then, how many hives per hectare would you say? Because we talked about that a little bit earlier on. It'll be crop specific, but in terms of the blueberries, what I've got some idea of what we did because of my experience down in Eastern Cape, rather.
Yeah.
But are you able to share some
I think I can give you a range because I know that there are companies, other berry producers that use up to 15 hives per hectare. So that's very steep.
That's the highest I've ever.
Yeah, it's amazing. I would say it can be anything between 5 to 10 hives a hectare. Seems for me, based on what I'm seeing, the amount, it depends on, again, plant density. How many plants do you have? How many flowers do you have available? It doesn't help if you have 20 hives, but you have food for only 5. That's detrimental. So I would say between 5 and 10 is a good indication of what is being used in South Africa for various companies.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was looking. I think where we were in Eastern Cape, there, I think we were talking about 7.
Yeah.
And the trouble is that we didn't go into as much depth as I think you've done on your research for the last 4 years, which is phenomenal. And congrats to you as well, being involved in that and doing the hard work. And please feel free to share, if you can share your research anyways, to that could be public knowledge at least. I'd be more than happy to share it, spread it to our subscribers and on here as well. When you're ready to publish,
Thank
we'd
you.
love to have you back on the channel and talk about it. Okay, when you're ready.
Yeah. Next year we may have some promising things to share.
Okay.
We just signed up a student, and it will blow your mind. So watch the space. But I will contact you as soon as we are ready to say more.
Awesome.
But it's groundbreaking work that's coming.
Still in pollination then, or
Pollination, yeah.
Awesome.
Blueberry
Awesome.
and pollination. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Because look, I think that the scope, from what I've seen with the blueberries, these guys in the Eastern Cape, I mean, they got bigger. A lot of they had an increase in yield. And I'm not sure if you can specify. You probably can't really say what
Uh,
you guys. Can you give a range maybe? Because I know the size was different for them. The grade, it jumped a grade.
yeah, it
That's similar to what you guys are doing.
varies. It varies. I have to say that what I've noticed this year, and that there's definitely a difference between the same varieties being planted up north compared to the same varieties planted down south. There's a difference. And in the quality of the nectar reward with regards to volume and concentration. So for me to give you a size range difference now is actually impossible, because based on those observations that are just preliminary, because it's the first season that I've worked down in the south, I can't do that comparison yet. But for me, it's mind blowing different. I think I'm going to find very interesting results to compare the difference between the varieties. And for me, what's making that unique is it's the first time ever that I will have the same plant, the same variety, but in a winter and a summer rainfall area. So yeah, uh, I am looking forward to the next season to dive into that, and then I'll answer.
And then you've got Capensis there versus Good Luck as well, which could also add a couple of variables there, right?
Yep, and whether you put the super on or not, hive numbers. Again, data, the thermal imaging camera. I already have an indication of the differences between a hive with a super, the workforce, and that may actually influence what we see in pollination compared to what we see here. So you see, I still have years of work ahead of me.
Oh, it sounds phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, just on that note with the super, I mean, you're talking about workers, and it's a. Are you talking about a super that's been full? It's a full, or that they've drawn the comb out. Super.
The comb is drawn out, but there's nothing stored yet. So they are bringing in nectar
Okay.
from the flowers.
All
So
right,
it's
but you've got
ready
workforce
for
to
honey.
enable that to happen, right? So in other words, you've got higher number of bees in the colony in order to do that, in comparison to one that maybe isn't ready for a super, so it has less
Yeah,
workers. What you saying?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or specifically that a hive that was ready for a super, but needs to travel so many kilometers, the supers are removed.
Right. Got you.
So, but still, that's again data that needs to be collected and compared, because yeah, in my mind there's going to be a change in pollination principles that we need to apply if we are looking at such a big difference in numbers of bees, actual numbers of bees. You talk about 40,000 bees in a hive. I don't think that's true. I think a hive without a super can have 15,000 bees maybe, but I haven't seen a hive without a super with 40,000 bees yet. But a hive with a super easily gets to that number. So, sometimes I think we have the growers have a misconception. You are supposed to have a hive with 40,000 bees. When is that? Can you really get 40,000 bees in a hive without a super? That's, yeah. And
Right.
this technology is enabling me to ask these questions now.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, excuse me, I remember when I was in I think it was when I was in Kiev, actually, Ukraine. There was a conference, an international conference there for beekeeping, and there was a Middle Eastern. I can't remember. I think it might have been Oman, or um, I think it was Oman. The university there actually had they'd spent I don't know, they must have got the money from one of the Rogers or something like that, because it looked like it looked like a weather station setup, but it was for bees. And what they were doing was recording, like you're talking about now. They were recording audio. I don't think it's the same technology, but it might have come out of that particular university so many years ago, 10 years ago now. They were recording audio. They were imaging, like you say, and on top of that, they had a counting system. So whenever the bees were coming and going, they were actually able to have, it was a sensor that would actually count the foragers going in, going out, and the foragers returning. They were actually able to capture the data of that as well. And they were providing it at the time. This guy that was doing this talk at this conference, he was saying that, if you want to have the information, we're currently looking at it as a fun thing. And I thought to myself, actually, this could be really, really
cool,
valuable data, not just for, because they were sharing it with school kids, with schools in Oman.
No, you need to invest. You need to investigate, because I would like that. I would like to be able to count it.
Yeah,
taking a video.
I've still got my book, because whenever you go to these guys, a lot of these things, they give you a book of all the people that were speakers or whatever. I'll have a look, because I still have that with me. I'll see if I can look it up. But
please,
yeah, it's phenomenal, because I thought to myself, can you imagine having a software? Well, he did have it. They had it there at this university where they were counting how many were coming in and out, and then they were able to, because the data then showed like how busy were they in the morning, the evening, when did they start, when did they finish. All sorts of data was coming in from that. I mean, that stuff's, to have that kind of knowledge at your fingertips would be phenomenal, especially if you could scale it over a period of location, as well as not just one location, but multiple locations, as well as within the local, one orchard or whatever. Would be pretty cool. It would add to your research as well, wouldn't it? Having
wonderful.
I'll see if I can into that for you as well. And then give you a shot. But yeah, that was something I thought that was, and this guy was talking about it, the professor was talking about it as if it's just a fun, a bit of interesting data. And I thought to myself, dude, man, you've got time here, and
it's groundbreaking. Yeah, groundbreaking.
That he could have, maybe that's where all of this other stuff's now come out of. That is from that, similar to what that guy was doing at the university there, just from a playing around, But yeah, so blueberries. Honey production on blueberries, is there? So I know the whole thing about pollination is the aim is to overpopulate the area, to increase the yield, to have more visitors that you're supposed to in the natural state of things, visiting the flowers and pollinating, and then there shouldn't be enough food to create an excess and that of nectar, which converts into honey, right? So that's What's your finding on that? What's your feedback on that?
My gut feeling is that I will eat a bottle of blueberry honey if I can get it.
Okay.
I can't see how any of my beekeepers in the northern part can prove to me that they have blueberry honey, because they're also feeding sugar. I don't think that's possible based on what I know about the flowers. It may be possible down in the Western Cape to produce blueberry honey, based on what I've seen in the flowers this season. So I'm still I'm doubtful about blueberry honey. I won't go for that as a benefit, a sub or a secondary benefit of blueberry pollination.
Because I
If
know
I was
farmers.
a beekeeper.
Okay. Because I know one of the things the farmer will turn around, the grower will turn around and say, "Oh, but you're going to get honey. You know, why should I pay if you're going to get the honey, right?" So what? So your statement on that would be, no,
No,
you're not going to get
no.
honey.
I will rather provide pollination and not look for honey.
Yeah, perfect. And when you talk about a standardized hive in terms of blueberries, I know you mentioned, that's one of the questions is how much is standard, right? Or what is standard? Can you indicate some sort of guideline there that you'd recommend? Your advice on that?
I would say, if you look at the Western Cape Beekeepers Association, their pollination ready hives, what they have it very neatly written out. So for more detail, you can look at that. 4 frames of brood, a colony in a building up phase. If I lift a lid, I would like to see at least 6 or 8 frames covered with bees, adult bees. Then I want to see all phases of brood, open eggs, open, sealed, all of that. And 2 frames of stored food. That I would say is a minimum to go in and get your colony safe out.
Right. Just make sure it can provide the service and survive providing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Sure. Right. And then when you're feeding, is it a 2-to-1 solution?
I would say 2-to-1 is sufficient. I would not so much worry about the sugar water feeding. I would go for protein supplement.
Pollen substitute, yeah.
Pollen substitute, yeah. Rather than...
so not so much sugar, more proteins, more pollen substitute.
Yeah. Because I think there is enough nectar out there to provide the sugar for the bees. So I would rather just work on the protein supplement.
Yeah, okay. Good to know. Thank you. All right.